Hello everybody, this is Faiz, Versey, real estate broker with the LePage team Realty in Ottawa. And I have an interesting video for you today. So some years ago, I think about 6 years ago, I came back to Canada. Prior to that, I was living in a beautiful country called Botswana for a good 20 years. Prior to that, I was in Canada. And I had some wonderful experiences in Botswana, especially in respect of traveling to some of their game parks. And so I thought, let me share that experience on YouTube. Perhaps there's some of you out there now that COVID is lifting, you might be thinking about going on a safari trip to Africa, and this may give you some more information in that respect, and certainly more information in respect of Botswana, which is an absolutely beautiful country, especially in respect of the wilderness experience. So let's take a look at this. So this is a beautiful place in Botswana called Nxai Pan, Nxaipan. And as I leave the tarmac and I'm going onto the gravel, I'm driving a very special vehicle. You'll see more about this as we go forward. And let's move forward. So this is our campsite. And that's really what it looks like. You'll see more about this as we go forward. And when we get there the very first night, we didn't have time to cook any food. So this was what we would have prepared with us, bring with us to the campsite the very first night. And then this would be the next day. I think this is the morning, is maybe an evening short, but something like this. Next day in the morning, you get up as early as possible and go on a game drive. And you see lots of animals. So if you can take a look at this, I wonder if it's big enough for you to see, but probably it is. And you can see some animals. Can you recognize them? Can you recognize this animal? Yes? Yes, you're right. It's an ostrich. Can you recognize this animal? This is an impala. And this area here is beautiful, where I'm looking at the whole scene you're looking at, where if you can see my cursor, I'm pointing to this beautiful flat land here. This flat land is called a pan, P-A-N, pan. And the way it came about is that maybe hundreds of thousands of years ago, this was a lake. And then the lake evaporated and left a flat land right in the middle of the desert, of the Kalahari Desert. And this became what is known as a pan, a very popular place for animals because there's lots of nutrients on these pans, and there's also water for them from time to time. So we're looking at these animals, and then we carry on, and just around the corner, what do we see? But this fellow sitting there. Beautiful animal, this. And there, as we went further, we could see that he is sitting, or just around the corner there, we saw that he's sitting with his mate. This is a beautiful scene on a pan with I think these are called acacias or a bush tree. And there we've got the two animals, beautiful animals. And there's your lion again, big pussycat, but you don't want to get too close to him because he could be a bit more dangerous than your domestic pussycat. Let's see what's on the next slide. Okay, so this, I don't think you can see this very well, but there is a lion here roaring, and there's his mate here roaring. So they're both roaring. And this is amazing because we saw them on and off throughout the day. And it's really amazing how we don't pay too much attention to the intelligence of animals. And I think what we saw here, they were mating during the day, and then in the evening they're roaring. Perhaps they're calling their family. Maybe they wanted some privacy, some time to themselves. And that's probably what they're saying to their family. Hey, come on, join us. Animals, they have their own language, and they're very intelligent. Especially if you've been into the wilderness up close, you see how they act and react. So here's another beautiful scene. You've got this game vehicle here, this game drive vehicle, which is open air. And somebody looking at this will say, hey, this is a lioness here. Perhaps she can jump in and attack the people who are in this open air vehicle. Well, actually, it could happen, but that'd be very rare. And the safest place in a game reserve is in an open air vehicle with a game ranger, because the game ranger is very familiar with the nature of these animals. And if she were to do anything that he felt suspicious, he would drive off right away. So no, I've been on many game drives, and this is really a very safe scenario, and a beautiful way to see animals in the open air truck like that. Now I'm pretty close. I'm in my own vehicle, and I'm enjoying my vehicle because I have freedom to move around as I please in the game park. So here's some food. We will be cooking lots of food while we were on this trip, and it's great, having your food in your house versus having your same food out in the open, in the wilderness. It's a different experience completely. All of you will understand that. Sitting outdoors is just an amazing thing to have your food. And here's a yellow tank. This yellow tank, by the way, is diesel, so I would have to carry my own fuel because there is no fueling station inside the game park. You really are in the middle of nowhere amongst lions and elephants, snakes, scorpions, and your tent. And so it is a fantastic experience if you're thinking of going out and doing this for yourself. So here's an interesting photograph. I'm pointing to a word that says Baines Baobab. We're going to come to this very soon. And this is my vehicle at the back, fully kitted and ready to travel. I'm not quite sure if I was going or coming, but it's all ready to go. Here's a beautiful animal. It's a jackal. He's hunting. And as he was hunting, I believe on this trip or another trip, I can't remember, but he might have caught, maybe on another trip, I saw a jackal hunt just like that and catch something just from under the surface. I think he caught a mouse. They're amazing animals. Here we go. Here's an elephant, most probably heading, I think he's heading back from the water hole. He's already had his drink for the day. This is a beautiful animal. Can you guess what this is? I'll give you a moment. Yes, if you guessed cheetah, correct. If you guessed leopard, wrong. So that's a cheetah, beautiful animal out there in the open. Here's our campfire at nighttime. Now it's amazing when you're sitting around the camp late in the evening is when you'll start hearing the lions roaring. They're establishing their territory, and it's just an amazing sound that just rips you apart. Initially, we used to be very scared of that sound, but as we got more used to going out into the wilderness to do our camping, we became very comfortable with that sound, and we knew when to get into our tents and get out of the way, and some other times just to sit around the campfire and enjoy the beautiful bite that the night gives you. The African night gives you a beautiful bite, and that's what you're there for, because you don't know what's lurking behind the bush. You don't know about the sounds, how far away they are. So you have to be very alert. People get hurt if they don't go unless they're fully trained about how to handle themselves in the bush. And it took us many attempts to do that, and we finally figured out how to do that, and we were very comfortable being out in the bush, absolutely in the middle of nowhere with young children, and you don't carry guns. You're not allowed to carry guns in the game park. So it's just you and the elements and your intelligence, and you have to be alert and keep away from the animals, but also enjoy the animals and enjoy the whole scenery. That's what you're there for. So here we go, some more food. And some more food, plenty of food, some more food, and eating food out in the wilderness is just amazing. Now here's a beautiful scene. This is what I was talking about earlier. We were going to visit this place, the Baines Baobabs. It's a wonderful scene. This is an amazing scene. These are huge trees, as you can see, in relation to me standing here, in relation to the car standing here. And this is amazing. It's a surreal scene where you're in the middle of this pan and you've got this island of trees that's come out of nowhere. And that's why they're famous, because they were painted by Baines back in the 19th century, I think 1800 and something. He's the first person, an explorer, a traveler who came here, was so amazed, and then painted these trees. And that painting became famous. And as a result, this island is known as Baines Baobabs. Okay, here's another scene of the baobabs. Now the baobab means upside down a tree. So you'll notice that the top parts of this tree, they look like roots. And so that looks like an upside down tree, and that's why they're called baobabs. Beautiful tree, fabulous, hundreds of years old, and they just grow to immense heights and immense girths. The width is tremendous. Here's another look at this island popping out of the middle of nowhere. It is surreal. When you're there, the silence is absolutely stunning. You could just sit there, as I'm even now imagining myself, I'm there. It is just so quiet and calm and peaceful. And the only thing you can hear is the wind, your own breathing. It's amazing, amazing place. So there we go, some more views of the baobabs. And now this is back at the campsite. So you can see this is an open campsite. Anytime a lion can trudge in, an elephant, and they don't do that very often, and we will be aware of that. They don't do that very often because they know that this is where the humans live, and they don't really want to entangle with the humans. But sometimes that can happen because it's all open, and we would see some scenes like that. I don't think at this particular campsite we had any animals come in, but at other campsites we did. So there's my children cooking some lunch and sitting around reading a book. Now here's an interesting scene. You see this vehicle here? It's a Landcruiser 100. They don't make this anymore. It's a beautiful vehicle, amazing vehicle, but this has been now taken over by other models. And I want to show you this. I want to ask you, what do you think this contraption is sitting here on the side of this vehicle, this black thing that's coming out from the side. So take a moment and try to answer that question before you move forward. Okay, so I'll answer it for you now. This is called a snorkel. So if you're wading through water, which is not recommended if you are an offshore off-road driver and you go into the wilderness, you want to avoid any kind of water crossing because that can damage your engine. But if you were absolutely forced to, it was raining, the only way through is through a water, through some kind of stream or water object in front of you. This will keep you healthy and happy because the air intake is way up here. So you can pretty much wade up to a big height here, which you don't want to do, but sometimes you're forced to do it, and you'll go through just fine because the air intake is up here and your car will drive through that obstacle. Okay, so here we are having some lunch. Okay, all the cooking coming to fruition, having a lunch. My wife's dishing it out for me there. And after that, it was just too much for me and I had to take a nap because I figured if he can sleep, so can I.